Lose a spot right there. And your restart leader will be Kyle Busch. He once again chooses the outside line. And have we seen him on pit road for the last time? Will their right fronts last? Kyle and Kevin race into turn 1.
This is interesting because this is the first time that Kevin Harvick's lined up on the front row, restarted on the front row, and his car's gotten better and better. See what he has here for coming.
We will see, and so will Stephen Wallace. Wallace has had a great night, and Ray, you saw once again his crew picked him up on pit road.
Yeah, they picked him up about 4 spots last time and 2 this time, so that 66 crew are having a good time. But, he was a gainer, but we noticed the 22 car's back in traffic.
And apparently Shannon has caught up with the reason why. Shannon?
Oh, you guys are talking about, I'm sorry, which car are you guys talking about?
The 22. He restarted
Brad
9th,
Keselowski.
Shannon.
Correct. Guys, he actually came down pit road and they pulled a spring rubber out of the right rear spring. So that is why he fell back to 9th, restarted 9th. The car was loose, been loose all race, so they have been working on that.
All right, Ray, worth the time? Well, should I ask the driver first? Worth the time in restarting back 9th?
Right now, I'm saying no.
But if the car comes to him, it was the right call, right?
Sure, with almost 90 laps to go, if it's just too loose, you probably told him, look, I'm too loose to win this race. Pulling that spring rubber out cost him a little bit of time, but it'll actually soften that spring rate in the right rear, give him a little bit more grip, so he can drive the car a little bit harder.
So it almost sounds like he needs a little help getting in the corner, Ray. The right rear, get down in the racetrack, getting in the corner, and
well, certainly a stiff right rear spring could free you up getting in, but it sounded like it was more middle and off because that's where you really want to put the pedal down. And that right rear spring, if it's too stiff in the middle of the corner, it'll turn the car too sharp for you and not really let you lay on the throttle.
You're on board with Trevor Bayne running fourth, trying the low line now. He's been working the high line the last time through. He works it underneath Stephen Wallace, who's got that 3rd spot.
Reading Jerry Baxter's lips, and he said, up with the track bar, 1 round. So freeing up, loosening up the 99 car.
In the opposite direction of who were we just talking about? The 22. He had to go the other way. You look on the right side of your screen to follow that battle. Meanwhile, there is Keselowski, who's moved his way up to 6th, so he has picked up 3 spots, and he's trying to hold off Carl Edwards. All over this racetrack, we talked about it before, side-by-side battles. The crowd curving from the exit of turn number 4 down to the entrance of turn number 1, getting a great view of these battles as they come across the start-finish line, completing lap 172 of 250.
And as we see, that spring rubber must have worked for the 22, although he did get loose just as I said that, so he drove in there hard, but much like it, he is moving up, had just passed Jason Leffler, but did get a little bit free in the middle of the corner there, Ricky.
Yeah, he did, and it's, as the fuel burns off, that'll work in his favor, but I'll tell you what, this is setting up a situation where if we have another long green flag run, they're probably going to use their last set of tires, everybody, and they can't afford any big adjustments on that lap stop.
Well, and possibly finally see the 2-tire strategy just to keep your track position.
And again, on the right side of the screen, we see those 2 young guys in the Toyotas. Toyotas are really running well. It looked like 3 or 4 out of the top 5 there, but Steve Wallace and Trevor Bayne keeping up with the adjustments on their car pretty good and running in the top 5 solidly.
I'm going cross-eyed here watching these 2 battles, but they're both so good. And Leffler in the 38 has been very impressive this week. We've said it already. He's been running up in the top 10 most of the afternoon, currently holding down 6th.
Yeah, I like your point, Ray. You got Stephen Wallace and Trevor Bayne are matching Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, and if they restarted 1st and 2nd, might that be the difference? Just being out in clean air. But they've gotten better as the night's gone on. I think at least the 99's maintained. They're both going to be contending for the win. They just look, with less than 100 laps to go, they're both very strong.
Nothing has changed up front. Kyle Busch has legged it out over Kevin Harvick right now. Harvick running in 2nd, but nowhere near Busch. It's 10 to 15 car lengths back. Right on board with Steve Wallace trying to hold off Trevor Bayne. Bayne has sort of moved up to that mid-groove now that he's no longer challenging. Speaking of challenging, we see Allgaier going to the outside of DiBenedetto. Allgaier takes over 8th. And behind them, there is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Bad day for him all the way around. 2 race cars wrecked. That 6 car, you kind of notice an odd paint scheme. Well, that was a Carl Edwards backup car they had to pull out for the race. Didn't have any laps on it when this started. And Ricky Stenhouse has driven his way all the way up into that now 11th position.
Yeah, under what I think are the most difficult circumstances of his young, early career. When you wreck 2 cars, that has an effect on you psychologically. He's going into the race in a borrowed car they had never run a lap in. The seat's not comfortable. The car may not be comfortable, and he's just outside the top 10. It's pretty impressive.
This is a young man with a lot of talent. We've seen him race throughout the years in the open wheel cars, sprints and midgets, wings, non-wings, dirt, pavement. It just takes a little bit of time. The tendency for the young guys that come in out of the high-powered cars, sometimes they overdrive these things a lot, and you got to slow them down.
Ray, I got to ask you, as they design these Nationwide cars these days, that car was designed for Carl Edwards. It could be very different than what Ricky was driven. Do you agree?
That might be the best thing. Maybe he can't push the pedal all the way down, and he is slowing it down.
Ricky, a couple inches shorter than Carl Edwards, but certainly the technology there for Roush Fenway Racing, and Ricky giving that 6 car a really great run. DiBenedetto still battling with Leffler. Again, that's with Allgaier, again, that's for 8th position.
What's impressed me about all these young drivers is that there have been several opportunities to push the issue, get yourself in trouble, and they haven't. They've had the sense to back out, to wait, to give themselves an extra lap. Quite a contrast to what we saw at times in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
The veteran Mike Bliss, the 5th car in line there. Bliss running in the 12th position, having a strong run tonight in the 40. Michael Annette's been looking for that car to come back around to him. It seems like it was better in the daylight. The 15 may have been one of those daylight cars that just hasn't quite had the handle here after the sun went down.
Well, again, that communication from a young driver's point of view is hard. The experienced drivers have built an information base over several years, several races. So when you're a new guy, you're not really sure what you want to feel in that car. It just takes time to get that, Dave.
Through 3 and 4. Keeping you with this group, again, leader Kyle Busch is stretched out over Kevin Harvick, so you're not missing anything up front. Ricky Stenhouse is getting pressure now from Mike Bliss. We mentioned earlier the Bliss team, the 40 car for Curtis Key, not the most heavily funded in the series. Gary Showalter, the crew chief, and that bunch have been working hard this year to keep the 40 car in the points and keep it motivated. They had kind of a silly penalty a couple of weeks ago, and Gary told me that was the hardest thing in the world to call Curtis up on the phone and tell him he just cost him $5,000. Hard to get fined like that. We mentioned Ricky Stenhouse and that great run in the 6 car. Shannon?
When Ricky Stenhouse was asked pre-race how he refocuses for tonight's race, he said last year, I sat on the pole here, and that is focus that I need. I know that I can run up front. I know what I need out of a race car. He's had some great finishes in the last couple weeks, 3 top 11 finishes in the last 4, and they have been working on this car tonight. It's been just a little bit tight for Ricky. But guys, I would love for you to be able to talk about how challenging it is for a young driver when they're involved in a wreck in practice and a wreck in qualifying to come out here, refocus, and do what they have to do on the racetrack.
Yeah, Shannon, it's extremely difficult. And again, all drivers go back to experience, and they say, I got myself out of this jam this way, or I got myself in this jam this way. In this case, Ricky doesn't have a lot to draw from. He's doing a remarkable job here, and under some very difficult circumstances. I commend him.
That is Trevor Bayne racing for 3rd with Steve Wallace. More side-by-side battlings on this progressively banked track, 7/8 of a mile around, and racy everywhere these guys go.
And Ray, we talked about the communication and giving your crew chief, vital information, the right few words to make a good adjustment. That works on pit stops, but now their only option is, look, if I'm not happy with my car, I have to move around the racetrack. You don't have that at every track. You do have it here, and with experience, that'll come to them. They can change their entry, they can change their middle, change their exit, and their car will perform differently.
Right, they're getting great experience, and again, that's where an experienced crew chief will come in. Scott McDougall is the crew chief on the 66 car, engineer by trade. He can tell Steven, okay, you turn your brake blower on, turn your brake. They run blowers now on the front and rear of these cars, so you can change the balance of that car by adding or taking away temperature on your tire using that blower. So this is great experience for these guys. I don't think there's any better experience for a young guy than a long green flag run as burns out the fuel and uses up the tires.
Yes. And that young guy in the 66 chasing down the 99 of Trevor Bayne, running 3rd right now. Can he be the one after 250 laps to take it home here at the Iowa Speedway? He was the fastest qualifier tonight. Or will it be Kevin Harvick trying to chase down Kyle Busch, who continues to lead here in Iowa? Kyle Busch continuing to put the laps down here as the leader at the Iowa Speedway. 250 will be the distance. We're getting to 195 right now, so a quick 55 to go. And when Kyle has led the most laps, which is 6 times in 2010. Guys, he's won the race.
Yeah, it sure looks like